In this video, I'm going to respond to some statements made by David Wilcock that I find absolutely ridiculous. In addition, I'm going to respond to some of the pushback from the UFO community regarding the UFO presence confirmation that's underway right now. Let's begin with David Wilcock. On February 9th, he released an article titled "Tom DeLonge, Group Stunningly Debunked. Curtains for Partial Disclosure." I'm going to go through what I find are absolutely absurd sentiments found in Mr. Wilcock's article. Mr. Wilcock writes, "With the formerly invincible cabal on the ropes like never before, perhaps this disclosure was just too easy. No one was fighting and dying to make this happen, and the media towed the line." Well, actually, the confirmation that is occurring right now, which will precede capital D disclosure, is largely predicated on the educational and activism efforts by people like Stephen Bassett, Stephen Greer, Linda Moulton Howe, John Burroughs, Richard Dolan, James Fox, Leslie Kean, Stanton Friedman, and many, many more who have helped us get to where we are today. What's occurring right before our very eyes has not happened in a vacuum, and whether you like it or not, Mr. Wilcock, this is the beginning of real, authentic disclosure that is going to change our world. Mr. Wilcock writes, "The members of this group completely ghosted the UFO community at large, hardly granting any access whatsoever to the people on the front lines of the disclosure movement. The government, nor To the Stars Academy, has any obligation to give you, Mr. Wilcock, or any other activist, or any other UFO research a piece of this process. That is not the obligation of the government. In fact, the government only has one obligation as far as I'm concerned, and that is to disclose to the United States and to the world at large that not only are we not alone in the universe, but our world is being engaged on a daily basis by these ETs. Mr. Wilcock writes, "What will real disclosure look like now that the credibility of this operation has been shattered? It's going to be grassroots all the way." Mr. Wilcock is referencing a slide of the Tic Tac UFO that was presented during the October 11th event press conference by To the Stars Academy, which ended up being, in all actuality, a Mylar balloon instead of the actual Tic Tac UFO that buzzed the USS Nimitz in 2004. It's laughable, Mr. Wilcock, that you convey that the To the Stars Academy's operations credibility has been shattered based upon a singular mistake. My question for you, Mr. Wilcock, is over the years, have you been responsible for any errors or mistakes? And if so, why is it that you hold the To the Stars Academy operation to a standard that you don't even hold for yourself? As far as the efforts for disclosure being exclusively grassroots, from this point on, as you have declared, I got to vehemently disagree with you. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love staying up late, deep into the night, listening to conversations over Coast to Coast AM and attending UFO conventions as much as the next guy. Those efforts and programs have helped enormously to get us where we are today, but we cannot rely upon that anymore. Now we actually have the DOD releasing formerly classified video footage of UFOs. We have a former head of the UFO program in the Pentagon announcing to the world that UFOs are real. We are riding the wave of disclosure, and I do not want to eradicate that in favor of exclusively grassroots efforts as you have declared in your article. That is ridiculous. Mr. Wilcock, I believe you know as well as I do that without governmental involvement with disclosure, we are just going to continue the status quo as we have for the past 70 years. I want there to be a transformation in science, academia, in the mainstream media. And the only way that's going to occur is if the government continues to involve itself into this disclosure. I want a paradigm shift, and I'm sure you want the same thing as well. At least I would hope as much. Mr. Wilcock writes, what kind of return on investment or ROI would you get if you could use a $6 balloon to raise $2.2 million? This statement by Mr. Wilcock is so disingenuous and mired in cherry picking that I'm basically speechless. I really hope that when he wrote that sentiment that he was laughing to himself while he wrote it. For starters, To the Stars Academy consists of retired CIA, DoD, renowned scientists, the former #2 guy at Skunk Works, as well as other amazing team members. Tom DeLonge was able to get the former member of the UFO program in the Pentagon to announce to the world that UFOs are indeed real. To the Stars Academy was able to get 2 videos, more on the way, of gun camera footage of UFOs. But sure, Mr. Wilcock, To the Stars Academy raised the $2.2 million based on a botched slide. Yeah. Sure. I think Bill Robinson put it beautifully in his Facebook post underneath the To the Stars Academy apology for the goof. Wow, you know, if it wasn't for breaking the UFO topic wide open with front page on New York Times, a senator publicly coming forward on a black UFO project, a media frenzy that finally made mainstream media take UFOs seriously, and the first ever United States government released UFO footage, this might be a hard thing to overlook. Mr. Wilcock writes, credibility of the entire initiative was heavily damaged by the WikiLeaks email dump of October 2016 when it was revealed that Tom DeLonge had worked directly with John Podesta on this plan. I read the emails and I failed to see how the credibility of To the Stars Academy and Tom DeLonge has been compromised based on them. I'd like to remind everyone that in the United States, a person is innocent until proven guilty. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Secondly, guilt by association is lame, especially when that association is feeble at best. Mr. Wilcock writes, DeLonge was made very well aware through direct insiders that I would speak with him and nonetheless completely refused all contact. I've actually covered this bizarre charge by David Wilcock in the past. There's a link to that video below. So this is not the first time Mr. Wilcock has complained that Tom DeLonge has not called up Mr. Wilcock on the phone. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Wilcock, Tom DeLonge is a private citizen and he owes you nothing, nor does he have any obligation toward you. My recommendation, my advice is that you pull away from this bizarre narrative. And with the hostility that you were showing towards him and To the Stars Academy, I got this funny feeling that he's never ever going to get in touch with you ever. Mr. Wilcock writes, the biggest problem is that if you knowingly raise a great deal of money under false pretenses, you are dealing with high-level fraud and criminality. Mr. Wilcock, it sounds to me like you are accusing To the Stars Academy of using that slide to engineer a bunch of people getting interested in their company, and that of course is an absolute absurdity. Firstly, your sentiment completely ignores the fact that there is zero false pretense behind what Chris Moulton conveyed on October 11th regarding the 2004 USS Nimitz event that actually happened and is historically accurate. It also ignores the December 16th 2017 gun camera footage that was released by the Department of Defense that substantiates the event that took place in 2004 with the USS Nimitz. It also ignores the witness testimony of pilot David Fravor and Jim Slate, who told their stories to corroborate the event that happened with the USS Nimitz. The money that was raised by To the Stars Academy is based on everything I said. It is not exclusively based on a slide, as you seem to be weirdly suggesting. Mr. Wilcock, I think you've been intentionally uncharitable to the Stars Academy by omitting the Facebook post that they made referencing the oversight that you have focused on. I will read that Facebook post to you. On October 11th, 2017, during a broadcast announcing the formation of To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, our creative team utilized a slide that was intended to be illustrative of the Nimitz case discussed in the presentation. We recognize that the use of this slide without proper clarification created confusion and, most importantly, did not meet our standards of accuracy. To the Stars Academy is committed to being trusted leader in the exploration of exotic science and technologies, and we regret this oversight. It is important to note that the evidence presented by the speaker regarding the Nimitz case is derived from the testimony of multiple U.S. military personnel and multiple sensors aboard multiple ships and aircraft operating in conditions of excellent visibility. Furthermore, the U.S. Department of Defense has not denied the account provided by To the Stars Academy or the retired U.S. military personnel involved in the incidents of November 14th, 2004. You go on to write, Mr. Wilcock, that it's mysterious or problematic that 2,000 investors raised the $2.2 million and it averages out to $1,100 per investor. To be perfectly frank, I am completely taken aback by this section of your article because it makes zero sense to me. Do you realize that To the Stars Academy is a public benefit corporation and people are essentially buying stock? Sometimes when people buy stock, they buy $10,000 worth. Sometimes they buy $50,000 worth. Sometimes $100,000 worth, or the minimum that you could buy for the company of To the Stars Academy is $200 worth. It really isn't that big a deal that it ended up equating to an average of $1,100 per person. I don't have any clue why you're making a big deal of this. There's nothing mysterious or suspect about it to me at all. Mr. Wilcock writes, "Please don't let this stunning collapse of the DeLong Group upset you." Oh, that gave me a good laugh. Don't worry, Mr. Wilcock. I'm not going to allow this stunning collapse to upset me at all. For those who want to read David Wilcock's article in its entirety to have complete accuracy of its content, I will link to his article below. I'm now going to cover some exchanges that happened during the February 1st Phenomenon Radio episode with Alejandro Rojas as a guest.
Knowing what I know about Dr. Putoff, knowing what I know what his group and the projects he's worked on with inside the government to include the technology that they're addressing, there is no way that that man doesn't have a better understanding of what's going on.
My response to Mr. Burroughs is simply that who cares if Howe Putoff knows more than he's conveying to the public? He's not going to breach any NDAs or any oaths of secrecy, obviously. I don't know why the UFO community will not accept something such as this.
I am hoping that Luis Elizondo and this group, even if they don't know a lot, if what you're saying is true, that they are really truly going to try to leverage things open by coming to people like you, me, and others who are also dealing with whistleblowers that have a hell of a lot of information.
I can understand where Linda Moulton Howe and John Burroughs are coming from. Linda Moulton Howe has studied this subject intensively and has dedicated her life to educating people about the reality that we're not alone in the universe and that there is an alien presence engaging Earth. John Burroughs, of course, is an experiencer, and he's also dedicating his life to this subject matter and to educating people of it. And they deserve the highest commendation for those efforts and the good that they've done as a consequence. But from my perspective, the way I see it, what we are witnessing right now is the government instituting disclosure, essentially. I will admit that I am under the impression that the To the Stars Academy and the team that Tom DeLonge put together and that coalesced through circumstances is a consequence of an initiation by the Pentagon to move forward with disclosure. And since there is a government involvement in this, I don't foresee, and I could be wrong, but I don't foresee the members of the To the Stars Academy bending over backwards, shall I say, to communicate with UFO researchers and activists and the like. Instead, what I anticipate is going to happen is To the Stars Academy, Luis Elizondo, all the players are going to focus on their data, focus on their witnesses. That said, we are clearly moving toward a post-disclosure world, and I stand by my prediction that 2018 is the year of disclosure. And when we enter that new world, what I would say is that people like Linda Moulton Howe and John Burroughs are going to be essential, because the entire world is going to be focused on one truth, and that is that we are not alone in the universe and that we're being engaged on a daily basis by extraterrestrials. And there's going to be tremendous pressure put on the government for more government-sanctioned data. And I anticipate, this is my perspective, that people like John Burroughs and Linda Moulton Howe will be at the tip of the spear, so to speak, in a non-violent way, obviously, to get more information from the government. And they're going to play incredibly important roles when we move into that new world, just as they have played incredibly important roles to push us to where we are now, to where the government feels a necessity to disclose as they are doing right before our eyes.
So what's the alternative? Not to step forward at all because we're not
If you're not
sure
going to handle it right, yes. It causes more problems and more chaos if you don't do it right than to say nothing at all.
That is a pretty painful sentiment for me to hear from Mr. Burroughs, and I have to disagree with him vehemently. We have witnessed a former head of a UFO program in the Pentagon announce to the world that UFOs are real. There have been 2 videos released by the DoD of UFOs captured by F-18 fighter jets. We learned that there were Congress people involved in authorizing the program in the Pentagon, primarily Harry Reid. We have also learned that the To the Stars Academy team is working to get the Congress briefed on the UFO subject, and that, my friends, is enormous. Beyond all that, this may all lead to congressional hearings, which John Burroughs would be invited to. So no, I disagree with Mr. Burroughs. We are way better off on what's occurring, even if it's not occurring the way he would like it to occur. I am sick. I am tired of the status quo. We need to stop being lied to. We need transparency, even if it happens in phases and it doesn't happen all at once. I don't want to go to my grave without disclosure, and I'm sure my viewers feel the same way. And if they don't, they really should. If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to subscribe because there's going to be so many more videos just like it. Please like this video, and if you want, you can even become a patron. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.